The value of internal religious pluralism in the construction of home. The cultic home shrines of Khirbet Qeiyafa. Home is just as much a mental construction as it is a physical place. This results in many points of intersection that create a home. Mary Douglas used the phrase home is an embryonic community, and this pairs beautifully with Dr. E. Campbell's belief that home is a process. It is an ever-changing and evolving concept that moves with us no matter where we are, and a concept as cognitive and philosophical is naturally influenced by the human understanding of the divine. Devotional ritual in the home elevates certain actions, connecting us to the non-manifest world, resulting a home becoming a personal sacred space. This connection is an important one that we will pursue even when society pressures us not to. This non-elite, internal, religious pluralism of domestic devotion is a defining feature of the 10th century BCE Khirbet Qeiyafa shrine boxes. Since the beginning of time, man has intuitively sensed the existence of another world, a non-manifest world, whose presence underlies and makes endurable the one he experiences every day. This quote is taken from the article, The Public, the Private, and the Sacred, by Charles Correa, and is a significant point that plays a greater role in domestic devotion. Our inherent desire and need to seek out the divinity in our lives manifests itself in personal narratives, beliefs, and practices. Sometimes such rituals are tied to dominant societal practices, but not always. In fact, it's more common for decentralized worship systems to exist outside of the prescribed belief systems of a society. The notion of such practices existing and shaping a household is best demonstrated in the pre-modern cultic objects of the 10th century BCE Israelites. The existence of such objects show that in the face of dominant religious society, one that has persisted into the 21st century, that non-elite crypto-familia spiritual beliefs will strongly persist on the basis of how they shape a home space. Susan Ackerman has contributed a great deal to the role that women played in the ancient Israelite society, as well as connected the existence of a Jewish female deity to the family religious practices. A key distinction must be made on the basis of ancient 10th century Israelite architecture. Family would reside in a large housing complex where multiple families would live in individual homes, but share outdoor space. Because of this extended family community in a particular space, there would be household religious practices that would mirror that of the dominant society, while there would also be the family religious practices. These family religious or spiritual practices would be unique to the given family and set primarily by the woman of the household. Although such housing space of the 10th century Israelites would be paternally inherited and organized, the women of these homes would conduct independent spiritual and religious practices within them. According to Rainer Albertas, the very motivation for the development of an internalized religious pluralism in a given society is the simple fact that a particular crosscut of that society is not having their needs met by the accepted doctrine. Women are notoriously known for being outside of any given society, and ancient Judea is no exception. Further, empowering healing practices related to common familial issues are rarely addressed in any orthodox rhetoric or religious institution. So it is only natural that women whose needs are not being met, as well as their concerns regarding home issues, result to seeking divine intervention outside of the religious systems that are prescribed to only a portion of society. The image you are currently seeing is a sunrise on the Ella Valley, the view of the settlement, or the view from the settlement of Khirbet Qeiyafa, where the shrines of question were found. This is what remains of Khirbet Qeiyafa. The white outline is of the housing along the city wall. This continues in a circular manner around the entire perimeter of the city, an element that is a key factor in identifying Israelite settlements. It is within one of these private residences that two highly decorative cultic shrine boxes were found. These are the two popularized cultic shrine boxes that were found at Khirbet Qeiyafa. The one on the left is smaller Its cavernous-like structure is made of clay and includes a great deal of vegetative decorations. The large shrine box on the right is carved from limestone and features a very streamlined design harkening to Egyptian and Mycenaean aesthetics. This is the room that the two cultic shrine boxes were found in. Within this room, there was also a mathabast, or standing stone, discovered. The space is considered to be a private resident space, not a public communal space, and it dates to the 10th century BCE. At this time in history, the priestly order of ancient Judea was becoming established and was the dominant societal belief system. This religious order was and has been considered to be a primarily monotheistic society. However, there are numerous accounts of the Canaanite female deity Asherah being the female consort to Elohim or Yahweh prior to the 10th century BCE. And she also continues to appear after that anyway. It would be no surprise that as a society shifts in structure and organizational dominance, that certain beliefs and practices would be perpetuated by those whom they still serve and believe in. However, they would become somewhat crypto in that society since the socially acceptable practices no longer included them. These practices would be perpetuated, especially in a home setting, since they would be private and meaningful to those residing in the home. The shrine box you see here is a lesser shrine from Khirbet Qeiyafa, since it does not showcase the distinctive decorations as the clay and limestone ones do. The importance of this lesser shrine box is that it, like many others, populated most of the residence spaces of Khirbet Qeiyafa. There was lots of these. There was not just the two, there was tons. Here we can see the detail of the highly decorative clay shrine box from earlier. There are leaves and tree-like attributes used as decorations on this clay shrine box. Sylvia Schroner, in her analysis of the cultic shrine boxes of Khirbet Qeiyafa, emphasizes the likelihood of them being home to goddess deities due to the dating of these objects and their location on the site. Theodore Lewis further supports this claim in his questioning of the aniconism of the ancient Israelites. The non-existence of human and animal forms in sacred Jewish art and design is considered a key identifier. However, Lewis argues that much like the Islamic tradition, aniconism was a slow-to-establish practice and belief system. Lewis has identified key visual elements that can and have been found in pre-modern Israelite society and sacred objects. These include the teraphim, known as household gods or symbolic representations of dead ancestors or relatives, zoomorphic representations in worship, vegetative symbolism for fertility, and finally the astral, which can at times be best denoted for negative space. The vegetative decorations on the small clay shrine box of Khirbet Qeiyafa implies the strong likelihood of a fertility goddess being housed in it due to the vegetative symbolism on it. Shrines like the clay organically decorated one found at Khirbet Qeiyafa are not a unique occurrence. As you can see here, the two shrines presented share a great deal of characteristics. The shrine on the left is from Tel Rekesh settlement and was produced approximately 100 to 200 years after the clay shrine on the right from Khirbet Qeiyafa. The Tel Rekesh shrine features more zoomorphic attributes along the lines of bullhorns, another frequent element found in ancient Israelite dominant and internal religious objects. Although in most digs there are hardly any remnants of any deity on, in, or near these cultic shrine boxes, the frequency and the reoccurring appearance of what are called Judean pillar goddesses is to be noted. These female sculptural phenomena are found in residential home spaces, primarily in the centers of homes as well as doorways. Outside of the residential spaces, they are found near temple spaces. The existence of such female sculptural creations that follow a consistent style and location suggests an integral religious or internal and integral religious pluralism that functioned outside of the orthodox system of society, and where these rituals or practices were related to these female forms were conducted occurred in the private family home setting. This group of Judean pillar goddesses are from the 8th to 6th century, a long time after the shrine boxes of Khirbet Qeiyafa, suggesting that these home practices were perpetuated well after the establishment of the Judean priestly order. On this map, we can see the location of Khirbet Qeiyafa, as well as a variety of other settlements that have had similar discoveries at them, including the notorious Tel Arad fortress. At Tel Arad, there is a fascinating temple space that contains two masabaths with matching burnt offering stands placed in front of them. A masabath is a frequent and reoccurring design element of many settlements throughout ancient Judea and surrounding communities. They're thought to be of a cultic nature and are simply stones that have been purposefully erected to stand upright, sometimes singular, often in pairs, though this is reflected based on the time that they were established, created, and turned upright. A recent lab analysis of the burnt material in the offering stands at Tel Arad revealed that they contained THC-rich cannabis mixed with cattle dung, perhaps as a binder for burning, as well as frankincense mixed with animal fat, also to help burn better. With the contemporary knowledge of what effects cannabis has on humans when inhaled, a connection can be made to the astral design that Theodore Lewis identified in ancient Israelite sacred objects. Lewis suggests that the empty spaces discussed in the Tanakh could be understood as the divine space that God inhabits. If burnt offerings that induced human-altered states of mind were burnt in front of two blank standing stones in a private space in the Tel Arad military fortress, so as the temple space of this space, could be predicted that a divine astral experience was attained, and moreover, it was purposefully performed. In the top left corner, we can see a singular masabath that was located in a private residence of Khirbet Qeiyafa. There are a few masabaths at the Khirbet Qeiyafa settlement in a number of private residents, as well as there's a few in public areas and in those spaces too. At the bottom, we can see another one of these that I was just mentioning at Khirbet Qeiyafa. And in the top right-hand corner, we can see the pair of the masabaths at Tel Arad. It should be noted that the fortified military complex of Tel Arad predates Khirbet Qeiyafa by approximately 200 years. So we see the one from about 200 years prior had the two standing stones, where often in the Khirbet Qeiyafa settlement, they are singular masabaths that are in the residential and also in the public spaces. I will also note that there were a variety of burnt offering stands that were found throughout Khirbet Qeiyafa in and around the standing stones or masabaths, and some of which did not have any burnt material in them, but they were structured in the same manner. The existence of overt cultic objects throughout ancient Judea imply a different set of practices that we associate with Jewish communities today. The subtle changes of these cultic objects over time imply a transition of certain practices becoming covert in a society that accepted them at one point but was shifting in a different direction. By these practices becoming crypto in their own cultural community, a non-elite, decentralized worship system was being established in conjunction with what home was becoming. The internalized religious pluralism is a reflection of the preferences for older, more familiar practices, and ironically mirrors that of what Deborah Kaplan addresses in her article on domestic devotion in early modern Jewish homes in Worms, Europe. The structure and practices of these relocated Jewish homes are very different from their ancestral ancient Israelite home spaces, but women are at the forefront of what spiritual rituals would be conducted in the home space. Further, according to Kaplan, even though everyone in the Worms community subscribed to similar household practices, the family practices were different. This reinforces the value of internal religious pluralism in the construction of home. I would like to conclude with this image of a plastered skull found in Jericho in the 20s, but dated to 900 BCE. The skull is dated to approximately 100 years after the construction of Khirbet Qeiyafa. It is a special object because of the care that has been put into applying clay to the face. The skull is also not a singular phenomenon. There have been many like it found throughout Israel in ancient residential housing spaces, such as Khirbet Qeiyafa. The current theory is that these are a form of teraphim, family members that are no longer alive, venerated with careful clay mask application by living family members to their skulls and brought into the home for astral contemplation. This may sound gruesome to some contemporary communities today, but in actuality is not very different from devoting a wall in your home to departed family member photographs. As humans, we shape our home space with our hands, while our minds inform what it is that we shape. The divine and non manifest world is intrinsically connected to our experience of life, and therefore, non elite internal religious pluralism is a key factor in the shaping of our individual homes.